prvi od triju panela koje ćemo održati danas. Paneli su zamišljeni za zaključne diskusije u kojima ćemo otvarati teme od strateškog, organizacijskog i političkog značaja za teme kojima ćemo se baviti, te na kojima ćemo probati napraviti nekakav zaključak onoga što smo do sada razmijenili kroz keynote predavanja na početku, a nakon toga kroz radionice na ove dvije teme. Trenutno smo na temi Reaching the Young and Underorganized, dakle koja se bavi novim oblicima, odnosno unapređivanjem praksi u smislu organiziranja onih radnika koji nisu organizirani iz ovog ili onog razloga. Na radionicama smo govorili o različitim iskustvima. Tu su bila sindikalna iskustva najvećeg britanskog sindikata Unita. Onda je tu bilo iskustvo jednog relativno mladog sindikata Power to the People iz Izraela. No isto tako smo govorili o iskustvima kampanja kao što je Jobs with Justice iz SAD-a, čiji je predstavnik Sam Nelson ovdje s nama danas i na panelu. Još nešto o čemu smo govorili su aktualne radničke borbe koje su u različitim svojim fazama razvojnim, koje se događaju u našoj regiji jugoistočne Europe i tu je bila riječ o iskustvima iz Ivanečkog Itasa i Tuzlanske Dite, kao i o iskustvima borbe sindikata obrazovanja, medija i kulture u Zagrebu. Na kraju govorili smo isto tako o iskustvima organiziranja migrantskih i podorganiziranih radnika u Sloveniji. Dakle, s moje lijeve strane prvo Goran Lukić iz Delavske svetovalnice iz Slovenije, zatim Siniša Miličić iz Regionalnog industrijskog sindikata iz Hrvatske i Sam Nelson iz SAD-a, iz Jobs with Justice i Florian Wilde iz centrale Rosa Luxemburg u Berlinu. Ono što povezuje sva iskustva o kojima smo pričali je da je riječ o ofenzivnim taktikama i strategijama radničke borbe. Dakle, ne toliko o reakcijama, naravno da je postojao reaktivni moment negdje u svim borbama, međutim, također postoji izrazito proaktivni moment, odnosno iznalaženje novih načina za organizaciju radnika. I sad ja bih da počnemo možda sa Sinišom i da nam Siniša ispriča, nakon što smo čuli jučer o tome kako je ITAS obranjen i kako su ga radnici preuzeli natrag u svoje ruke, da nam Siniša ukratko približi model radničkog vlasništva nad tvornicom koji se u ITAS-u priprema i odnosno kako se zadrugarski model sada tamo osniva da bi se zapravo tvornica trajno i zadržala u rukama radnika. Siniša?
Hvala Luka. Pozdrav svima. Evo, ja bih ukratko rekao nešto malo o sindikatu iz kojeg dolazim. Tko smo, što radimo i što planiramo raditi. Dragutin Varga iz ITAS-a, ja i jedan kolega iz prijevozničke tvrtke Autobusni promet Varaždin došli smo na ideju prije 11 godina da osnujemo sindikat iz razloga što nismo bili zadovoljni sa postojećim sindikatom i Savezom samostalnih sindikata, njegovim udruženim sindikatima i onime što su ti sindikati radili. O ITAS-u ste čuli kakva je borba bila 2005. Dakle, mi smo sindikat osnovali 2006. i nazvali smo ga Regionalni industrijski sindikat, što konkretno znači da djelujemo na području sjeverozapadne Hrvatske. U budućnosti smo otvoreni regiju proširiti, a industrijski znači da se kod nas mogu učlaniti svi radnici koji žive na području regije. Bez obzira na struku, dakle mi nismo strukovni sindikat, nego smo industrijski sindikat i svi su dobro došli. Tako da pokrivamo područja recimo iz proizvodnje obrade metala, imamo jednu veliku tvornicu obuće, imamo tvrtku za zbrinjavanje komunalnog otpada, imamo autobusni prijevoz, to nam je isto jedna od većih podružnica gdje imamo puno vozača, i još dvije manje građevinske tvrtke. Malo imamo problema sa učlanjivanjem. Naime, na početku smo i mi kao sindikalci odbojni prema članovima, a reći ću vam i zašto. Obično potencijalni član pita, kad ima nekakve probleme, što ćete vi za nas učiniti? A mi im odgovaramo, a ništa. A kako? Ali vi ste sindikat, vi morate nešto učiniti za radnika. Rekao, mi hoćemo i želimo, međutim, želimo vas uključiti. Vi koji imate problem, da ga i vi zajedno s nama rješavate. Dakle, da problem idemo rješavati zajedno, jer još uvijek imamo dobar dio radnika koji smatraju da ako plate sindikalnu članarinu, da su oni sa time svoj problem riješili. Međutim, naravno, mi im kažemo, nije to tako. Dakle, ili ćete biti aktivni članovi ili ćete na neki drugi način riješiti problem. Svojim članovima, između ostalog, smo recimo i pomagali financijski, nekima smo posudili novce da su se doškolovali, upravo radi toga da bi zadržali radno mjesto, pa primjerice plaćali smo školovanje za vozače autobusa, da su dobili kategoriju. Onda recimo kad smo već kod vozača, moram reći da je interesantna stvar da iako su poslodavci po zakonu dužni svaki mjesec svakom vozaču dati listu sa odrađenim satima, poslodavci to izbjegavaju napraviti. Onda smo mi išli u jednu malu investiciju i kupili smo čitač digitalnih tahografskih kartica i sad svakom vozaču koji dođe do nas možemo čitati njegovu aktivnost u proteklih mjesec dana pa skroz do godinu dana unatrag, točno za svaki dan, za svaku sat, za svaku minutu. Jer naši poslodavci vole plaćati vozače samo kad se kotač vrti, a sve drugo ne smatraju radom i ne žele platiti, iako moraju. Tu bih želio reći da se u Hrvatskoj trenutno osjeća manjak radne snage, pa recimo kad smo kod vozača, posebno i vozača, i da naši poslodavci žele uvesti radnu snagu, posebno s područja Balkana, dakle prije svega Bosne i Srbije. Naravno, mi kao sindikat se ne protivimo da ljudi dođu raditi i zarade svoj kruh, ali bi ih željeli upozoriti da oni koji pozivaju radnu snagu u Hrvatskoj u pravilu ne govore istinu, čak što više svjesno i namjerno ne govore istinu, dakle lažu o uvjetima i plaćama u Hrvatskoj. A to možete zaključiti i sami, zbog toga jer je trenutno u Hrvatskoj veliko iseljavanje u zemlje Europske unije, što znači da ako ljudima koji imaju svoj dom u Hrvatskoj nije dobro, teško da će nekom drugom biti dobro. Ali ako već dođe, pozivamo ih da se informiraju, jer kao sindikat smo također investirali i platili smo si ulaz na jedan internetski portal koji o svakoj registriranoj tvrtci u Hrvatskoj može dati osnovne financijske i druge podatke. Dakle, važno je znati koliko je plaća. Kad sam rekao da se govori neistina, možda ćete čuti da vozači u Hrvatskoj, znači vozači kamiona i vozači autobusa imaju plaću negdje oko 2000 eura, što naravno nije istina. Plaća je negdje između 400 i 500 eura, a ostalo su dodaci ako radnik radi sve dane u mjesecu. Dakle, i tu pozivamo ako netko dođe u Hrvatsku ili nekoga interesira, neka nas kontaktira preko interneta, preko e-maila, poslat ćemo podatke o poslodavcu i reći svoje mišljenje da li mu preporučamo ili mu ne preporučamo da se zaposli kod tog poslodavca. S obzirom da smo mi relativno mali sindikat, imamo negdje između 800 i 1000 članova, jednostavno smo bili prisiljeni na suradnju sa drugima, pa smo prvo počeli surađivati sa udrugom BRID, Baza za radničku inicijativu i demokratizaciju. Zatim smo kao sindikat bili suosnivač isto jedne udruge nevladine, Centra za razvoj radničke participacije, s kojim smo upravo prije 2 tjedna uz pomoć Rose Luxemburg organizirali seminar zajedno sa kolegama iz Slovenije, sindikatom iz Luke Koper, sindikatom poštanskih radnika, udrugom Cedra i uglavnom bilo nas je više od 30 i 3 dana smo razmjenjivali iskustva i planirali kako proširiti našu suradnju. I sad bih došao na ono što je Luka rekao oko razvijanja novog vlasničkog modela u ITAS-u. Naime, ITAS je dioničko društvo i većinu, gotovo 98% dionica drže ili radnici, ili bivši radnici, ili su dionice u vlasništvu samog dioničkog društva. Tvrtka izvozi, ima izvozni program, dakle ima posla, 95% svojih proizvoda izvozi direktno na strana tržišta. Trenutna situacija nije baš najbolja, ali perspektive su obećavajuće i moguće je da se pojave interesenti koji bi od radnika pokupovali te dionice. I sad, da bi mi to spriječili i da bi tvrtka zaista ostala u vlasništvu radnika, nakon puno savjetovanja došli smo do zaključka da bi bilo dobro osnovati zadrugu. Zadruga bi bila vlasnik dionica, a radnici bi bili zadrugari. I ne bi mogli direktno prodavati svoje dionice, mogli bi biti samo u zadruzi ili izaći iz te zadruge, a kroz tu zadrugu bi mogli upravljati tvrtkom, s obzirom da bi zadruga, kako sad stvari stoje, bila većinski vlasnik. Još od stečaja, oni koji nisu se naplatili, dakle, firme kojima je ITAS bio dužnik, su zadržali dio vlasništva. To su vrlo mala vlasništva, ispod 0,5% vlasništva i manje. Pa smo i mi kao sindikat počeli kontaktirati takve vlasnike i ponudili smo im da taj mali dio koji imaju mi otkupimo, s obzirom da kao sindikat nemamo trenutno financijskih problema, imamo višak sredstava i počeli smo otkupljivati dionice, evo upravo smo kupili nešto u promilima, simbolično, ali ipak smo otkupili i sad kad osnujemo zadrugu, onda ćemo te dionice jednostavno pokloniti toj zadruzi. Dakle, cilj je da ITAS bude radnička tvornica u vlasništvu radnika i da se spriječi neprijateljsko preuzimanje, kako se to veli kod nas, u kupovanju dionica. Evo, ja ne bih više duljio, ako imate pitanja pa ću odgovarati na pitanja.
Ok, hvala Siniša. Na pitanje ćemo na kraju. Ako ti nije problem se da staviš slušalice. I'll switch to English now. Basically, and this goes both to Sam and to Goran, as your organizations are not unions, but although your organization was founded by unions, how do you see where do you see the space for cooperation between the unions and non-union organizations on these questions of democratization, of economic democratization, and also for campaigning and organizing?
Yeah. So again, we were created by, Jobs with Justice was created by unions in a certain context in the 1980s to do things that the unions couldn't do legally, to expand the breadth and the ability of unions to impact capital, to organize people. So I think that model of being based in permanent coalition, knowing that the union is not the only social force in the country, is fundamental to understand how we can organize for democratization of the economy nowadays. In our campaigns, we base everything on making sure we have multiple people engaged in the same coalition, in the same kind of work, and we decide on what campaigns to run democratically in our local coalitions. So in Washington, D.C., where I came out of, retail workers are largely unorganized. They also have some of the most sporadic schedules, 10 hours this week, 20 hours this week, 60 hours the next. They can't, schedule childcare, they can't schedule school. They're in a very precarious situation. And so we worked with the retail union. We also worked with women's organizations, since women's groups are, women are majority, retail workers are majority women, childcare advocates, thus the childcare union as well, to work on a bill that would basically collectively, the campaign was a way for non-union workers to basically collectively bargain over scheduling through a policy campaign at the city level. And we call it the Retail Workers' Bill of Rights. And so we created a way for non-union workers through coalition of unionized retail, through women's organizations, things like that, to actually bargain over hours, even though they're not in a union. And so I think this kind of concept is key, not only of the coalition, but also that workers can collectively bargain, and collectively bargain over a lot of different things, even if they're not in a union. Unions are still probably the best model for worker organization. I'm proudly a member of a trade union, and I'm very grateful to be so in a country that not many people are in a union. But I think the focus should really be on how do we get more workers into collective bargaining situations and expand the scope of what they can collectively bargain over. Not just wages, not just hours, but bargain over childcare. We're experimenting with things like bargaining over making sure managers aren't racist in the workplace or sexist in the workplace, and making sure that in these collective bargaining agreements, they have a much more broader social impact and not just a narrow economic impact. And so there's the coalition building model, there's the expanding the scope of collective bargaining and the ways you can collectively bargain, And then there's really encouraging experiments, being willing to try new things, and not being afraid of changing your model just because it's worked for decades. If it's not working anymore, you need to change. And I think that's tough for a lot of organizations. It's certainly tough for groups in the United States at a lot of times. But I think if we can encourage this kind of new thinking, we can come to some new ideas that we might not have thought of before, because we've been working in these old paradigms of, we have the industrial union, we have the unions in their narrow kind of sectors, and they bargain over wages, and maybe they also are active in the community in some kind of way, and then it stops there. And so it's about turning the union into a social force again, but in the modern context, not in the context of the 1800s or the early 1900s, but in the context of 2017. And we found that the best way to do that is through the local coalition building, through the international coalition building with groups like Asia Floor Wage Alliance, through this idea and theory based on expanding collective bargaining, very specifically expanding collective bargaining, the ways to do it and the scope of what you can bargain over, and then the encouraging of experiments. And now we're working with groups that focus on worker cooperatives in the United States. That's very promising. There's a number of union-led initiatives for worker cooperatives in Ohio and in Rhode Island and some other places. Working on things like renewable energy, how unions can be a part of the solution to climate change and be a part of just transition so that workers in the fossil fuel industry aren't left behind. And really reckoning with the union's not so good aspects of the union's past. So how do we make unions much more akin to racial justice? How do we make them much more akin to feminism and things like this? Because democratization is not just about worker control, it's also about equality socially between the various groups in the United States and elsewhere. With that you don't really have democracy. If workers can control the workplace, which is great, but if there's still sexism or racism and stuff, that still divides the workers themselves. And so working on those things through a collective bargaining lens, I think, is promising.
Thanks. If you want it more specific, how does it go between non-union organization in your case and the union? Where are the problems? Where are the possible meeting points?
Well, this is really interesting and really important question, because it gives me the opportunity to bring back the ball back to the NGOs. Why am I saying that? In the last couple of days, we were talking lots about changing the unions, but what about changing the NGOs? Why I'm asking that or saying that? Because we are a trade union-like NGO. We are not financed through projects. We are financed through membership fees. And whenever we say that to the NGOs, they are astonished. And this is a problem. They shouldn't be astonished. Because I think that whenever we are saying about the NGOs, we are saying about the civil society organizations which tend or should or must be independent. And whenever we see an NGO which is financially dependent from the state, this is not an independent NGO. I will give you an example. There is a big debate now on the rising of the minimum income in Slovenia. The minimum income in Slovenia is now at the 50% of the poverty threshold. So it's rubbish. And when we were talking with the NGOs which deal with this issue, with humanitarian NGOs, they were saying, oh no, we will not go into this campaign because we are now waiting for the projects from the state. And we are talking about minimum income, the poverty line. We are talking about the people who simply don't have means to survive. And we are talking minimum income, not minimum wage, minimum income. Minimum income in Slovenia is 297 euros. Minimum wage in Slovenia is 804 euros, or net 604 euros. So, and poverty threshold in Slovenia is 616 euros. So the minimum income in Slovenia, so for the people who are unemployed and don't have any means to survive, is 50% of the poverty rate for one person. So how can you survive with that? I don't know. But I was astonished with the answer from the NGOs. Sorry, we will not go into this action because we are waiting for the project money. That's why I'm bringing back the ball to the NGOs. Whenever you are saying, or we are saying, because we are also an NGO, that we are, for changing the world, you first have to change your mindset, and changing your mindset means changing also your financial management and changing your, daily work. And I think that this is really, really a task to do for the NGOs, not only in Slovenia, but I think that throughout the whole European Union and throughout the whole world. Because I think that in Slovenia, I wouldn't dare to say, this is not bragging, but I would say that only our organization is, as an NGO, is membership financed. Not 100%, because this is the answer to your question. We have also donations, and one of the biggest donation that we have is from the trade union. This is interesting because, why? Because the trade unions saw the opportunity to collaborate with us on the fields which they don't see how to access. They don't see how to access these fields because either this is not their, priority field, either they don't have the, the craziness to do the things that we do, basically. And this is quite a good collaboration. But we have, I would be sincere here, the problems with the trade unions which they don't see themselves as an open organization. What do I mean by the open organization? They see themselves as an interest-based membership organization which takes care only for the members, period. And they don't like the members to ask the questions. They like the members who are paying dues. And they don't like, anybody that would interfere in their daily work, because that would mean that they would have to work. Unfortunately, we have the case of these trade unions. And whenever we go in the factories, or whenever a worker from this factory comes to us, so we don't know this worker, and we ask this worker, are you a member of the trade union? And he or she, for example, says, yes, I'm a member of this trade union. And then we go to the trade union and and say, look, this is your member, take care of him. And they were saying, oh, you're stealing our member. No, we are bringing your member back to you. Take care of him. And this was not only one case, this was several cases. So I really hate this kind of, competition between the organization which fights basically the same ground. I would say that we have really good experience with dealing the daily work on the temporary agency workers, the daily work on, for example, insourcing back the cleaners, because our resources are small resources. But we still have resources. And then if we combine our resources with the resources of the trade unions within the factory or the company, this is a success, this is a recipe for success. Yesterday I was saying about the case of temporary agency workers which were directly employed in one of the companies. I would dare to say that we wouldn't have done that with the help of the company level trade union. So we got the workers there, we talked with them. So we basically, got all the information, but, the direct access, the push, the strong push to the management was not through us. We made the public push. This invisible push was made by the trade union. So whenever we give this, collaboration in the sense of combining the resources, it's really great. So now you can see what happens when you, for example, combine NGO and trade union-like membership advocacy organization. It's really a strong, powerful, unity. But as I'm saying at the beginning, I'm bringing ball back to NGOs, and I think that there's plenty of work to do. Because I've heard a lot of this, policy advocacies, policy this, policy that. I'm sorry, I have a diploma in political sciences, but unfortunately, this brings us to the issue of who are we? Because also in Slovenia, the trade unions have lost, on average, I would say, their compass, because they switched, or they escaped from the problem of disorganizing on the company level to the policy lobbying in the parliament. So they basically, changed the modality of their work. They, put the blindfolds on the head and said, okay, if we can't organize, then we will lobby. And if you combine that with the NGOs who are also lobbying, this is recipe for disaster, because nobody is taking care of the ground. I'm always saying it's not that we are going to, back to the politicians. It's the politicians who are going to have to come to us if they want something, questions or experiences, and that's it. So we had quite a good success on the ground of, how can we combine field work together with the trade unions, and how can we, access the political field on the ground of this experience. The case was changing the penal code in Slovenia, or the penalty code, I don't know, penalty code, penal code. Penal code, okay, thank you. So I wouldn't go into details, but there was a really great problem within this penal code, how to, go to the court and prove the case in the case of really breaching the basic human or workers' rights. And we were successful in changing this penal code because we had the concrete cases. And the trade union also had the concrete cases. So we came together with the trade union. They used our resources, we used their resources. We came together to the Ministry of Justice. Thanks God they have a really good minister for now. We sat down, we wrote down the proposal, and it went to the parliament, and it went through with 60% in favor and 0 against. Because there were no argument against it. Because we had the field arguments. And this is the case that we are saying, yes, policy level, policy advocacy is really important, but we must combine the field resources, and we must, think of our organizations as the visions that we are supposed to realize, not the reality that we are pragmatic. And I'm sure that there's plenty of things to do, and really this is an issue for the whole another seminar, what to do with the NGOs which tend to be humanitarian, pro, I don't know, human rights, and then they do nothing. They just collect the money and, write down the brochures and pinpoint all the problems, the hunger, the climate issues, and, have the PR statements, and that's it. And then they don't have members. So it's also the NGOs which have to change the modality.
Thanks a lot. Now let's, for the conclusion of what comes from the table, let's use Florian's unique experience as a social movement guy / trade union organizer / trade union scholar / ex-Die Linke Central Committee member. I think that one thing that we haven't spoken of yet today is where do the leftist political actors, whether parties or movements or whatever the form, where do they come into picture, and how can those actors advance this fight for organizing labor and fighting for labor rights? So on this side, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Luka. Good morning, everyone, friends and comrades. Here we are again on a Sunday. I had made a long keynote yesterday. I'm going to be brief. It's just some comments. I'd especially like to thank, it's hard to spell your name, Siniša Miličić, for the example he gave of workers' management of an occupied factory. I mean, if I understand it right, it's just a small factory that you run under workers' management. Yeah, it's a small 200 workers, yeah. But I think these examples are very important because they demonstrate us something very fundamentally, that workers are able to run a factory, that workers are able to organize and do things themselves. And I think this always opens a little bit the vision towards a society that is controlled and run by workers that organize the factory and the day-to-day life and so on, just like by themselves. And these examples demonstrate that this can be possible. And so I think that's really important and inspiring for all of us that we have those few examples of workers-managed factories. I think generally we should be realistic about the situation, not too pessimistic. Yesterday I was talking about the decline of the trade unions over the last 30 years. In the afternoon I've been to a panel about transnational organizing and the difficulties we are facing in the age of globalization, and I think the challenges and difficulties are huge, and we lost a lot of members and influence during the last 30 years. But compared with like a longer history of the workers' movement, we are still in quite a good position. And I think like when the workers' movement started in the 19th century, many things were quite similar like they are today. Like the level of precarization was incredibly high in the 19th century. People worked incredibly long hours. There was like hardly any job security. There have not been the big factories that we know from the middle of the 20th century. I mean, this model of big factories was coming up in the it's in the beginning of the 20th century. The decades before, the trade unions were facing a situation like today with the working class. It was highly atomized, fragmented, divided along many also national lines, also the gender lines and so on. And trade unions and workers' movement has managed throughout history to overcome obstacles. So I think this at least should make us quite optimistic that our class, until now, over the last 200 years, has faced many, many, many times difficult situations, also with changes in the modes of production, totally different models, how capitalism is organizing itself. There have been many waves of like globalization of economy during the last 200 years. It's not like only since 20 years ago that capital is a global phenomenon. It's like 200 years we are facing this. And all the time until now, the workers' movement have found ways to deal with new situations and challenges. And this at least should, although the situation today is difficult for our side, should make us kind of optimistic that we'll find also in the 21st century answers as a trade union and a workers' movement. I also think that, I mean, we talked a lot about, also Ananya did it in the opening session on Friday, how vulnerable workers have become in the global chains of production. But we must not forget that also capital has become quite vulnerable. I mean, capital depends on global chains of production that are working without interruption. And workers' intervention by strikes at a certain point in this global chains of production can stop the whole process for capital. A strike somewhere in a supplier in the Balkans could have huge consequences for German companies in Germany. So I think also capital has become vulnerable. So yeah, I think we shouldn't be too pessimistic, but realistic. And we should look to those examples where we can see how workers, under the difficult conditions of today, manage to organize, to find new ways of organizing, of fighting, of struggling, and so on. And especially we, as a Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, I think what we have to do is try to generalize these experiences. Try to generalize, like for example, if there is a factory with workers' management on the Balkans, to generalize this experience, to make it known for other workers in other countries, that if the workers at Amazon, for example, start to organize and fight those companies and make some successes, I see our role in exporting those experiences to other workplaces in other countries and like helping, using our resources to help the trade union and workers' movement to find answers to the current situation. You asked me also about the role left parties and movement should play, Luka. Especially on the question of how to reach the and under-organized. I think that left parties and movement can play an important role also in repoliticizing a society. And I mean, if we look in the last years, the big struggles in France, for example, against those new regulation laws on the unemployment sector and so on, those big revolt in France, there have been many and non-organized people among it. Yeah, mainly young people from the banlieues, from the outskirts of France that went to demonstration, that fight against the police, that get into activities. And I think that the contribution trade unions, the contribution left parties and movements can do is like supporting those kind of broader movements, for example, against austerity, to repoliticize society, to repoliticize the class, and open up spaces where those young people from the banlieues start to meet trade unions in a demonstration, try to get involved into movements, meet left forces, meet trade unions. And so I think that also in Spain, for example, those huge movement of occupying the places of the 15M was like hundreds of thousands of ordinary people becoming active. Most of them have not been trade unionists, but still the participation in broad movements can be a tool to reach and non-organized people and to get them into political activity and to like lead them towards also unionization and becoming a union member. I just hope that once we have also, like in Southeastern Europe and the Balkans, this kind of broad social movements that take the whole society with them around social questions as also a weapon against nationalism and racism and all those kind of things. I also wish for Germany, I mean, for a long time ago, we do not have strong social movements in Germany that are really attracting the whole society and getting millions of people on the streets and so on. I think if we come to those points, these are really an instrument for reaching and under-organized workers and to get them into activities. Last comment I want to make is about the role left parties can and should play in terms of a re-regulation of labor. I mean, in Germany at least, we often argue that in many areas the trade unions have become in a way that weak that they won't be able to overcome their problems just by themselves, but that we need a new kind of state regulation to open up new spaces for trade unions. For example, in the retail sector, the level of collective bargaining coverage of the workers has fallen dramatically. I think it's less than 20% nationwide of workers in the retail sectors that are covered by collective bargaining. In the past, it was usual that if we had a collective bargaining, the state declared it as for the whole industry. So if the trade union and the alliance of the bosses of a certain industry made a collective bargaining agreement, the state guaranteed that every worker in the whole industry was covered by it if there is a union or is there not a union in the concrete factory and workplace. This law has been taken away. Nowadays in Germany, collective bargaining means that the union can do it only for those being unionized or being part of the employees association. So it's just a minority of the workers in many sectors, many industries, still covered by collective bargaining. We have to change this, and a role of left politics and left parties can be to contribute to a change of it. So we are pushing and demanding for collective bargaining to cover like all the workers in an industry. And I mean, here in the Balkans, where we do not have, at least until now, let's say, hopefully in the future this might change, but like broad left parties we do not have in most countries here. But still, this could be something where trade unions can try to make a political campaign and political pressure on governments to have a collective bargaining that rules for the whole industry. Yeah, so thank you for now.
Thank you, Florian. Thanks to all four of you. And now I would like to open the floor for discussion. I just want to say, yeah, I've seen three hands in the air. 1, 2, 3. What I just want to encourage you all to participate in discussion, and also I want to say to the panelists that you don't have to feel obliged to answer everything. I mean, now I think that we should really, when we come to this point, start more of a circular discussion and not the usual dynamics of questions from the audience and the expert answers from the presiding table, as it often goes. Yeah, because the technicalities. So Bettina, and then Rafi, and then Toni.
Yeah, thanks very much for this very interesting contributions, particularly from Siniša and Goran, I have to say. Goran, I have another provocative opinion. I mean, I come from a small NGO in Germany, or this is where I'm employed, and we are an umbrella organization of development, education organizations in our federal countries. We have 57 members, and their annual membership fee is 50 euros. This is nothing, and we know it, but we can't increase it because they are working basically voluntarily and they just cannot pay more. So it's really difficult. What I want to say is it's really difficult sometimes to survive on membership fees. We all know that. And I would pose the opposite thesis. I would say it is a damn obligation of the government to fund us. And if then NGOs, make their opinion dependent on the public funding and the opinion of the government, I think they have a problem with democracy. This is, of course, something that is heavily discussed in our federal country, in Germany, also on EU level. Many of our of the European CCC organizations get funding from the European Union. And at the same time, we are heavily criticizing the European Union on various of their policies. So, of course, I know the truth is in the middle, but I just want to provoke the discussion on it. I have two very specific questions to Siniša and Goran. What are exactly the crazy things you were talking about, Goran, the trade unions don't do? What are the specific methods when you want to organize or support women workers? Then, Siniša, you have said that you also organize workers in a shoe factory in Varaždin, right? And as far as I know, Varaždin is traditionally a very important textile and shoe production location. So what are the specific things when you want to organize or support women workers? And in this connection, I would like to express my sincere upsetness, I don't know how to say that, about the gender composition of the panel. I think this is impossible. This is really terrible. I have to say very clearly. Yeah, I mean, and I would, for the next conference, inspire the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, for instance, talking about sexual harassment within trade unions. This is a topic I think that needs, particularly here in the region, to be dealt with, and with specific challenges in organizing women, low-paid, underpaid women. This is really my criticism, if you allow me. Thank you.
Criticism acknowledged. Yes, we have an all-male panel, and yes, it's not a practice that we're glad of. It's what happened, and yeah. So.
Luka, you spoke about democratization of economy. I think in many ways we should start with the democratization of unions. A lot of times there's a big tension between the leaders of the union and the, let's say, administrative side of the union. And we should look for the democratization of union, that they would be controlled by union leaders and not by professional staff. I think the next step afterwards is democratization of finance. And, workers should own capital. And not the other way around. And one of the things that we should think about is a union ownership of banks, where our money goes to, where our salary is going to. Not just our salary, where our pension money is going to. You all know that pension is the base for all banks, for all big banks. Our money is used to manipulate us in many ways. So I think a good idea would be that union will start with cooperative. There's a lot of option there to own capital, a capital that will work for the workers and not against them, as in many times. And I really think that cooperative of workers is a very good, it's better than unions in many ways. That the highest way of organization of work. So I think it's a brilliant idea that unions would be a part of building cooperative owned by workers. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Really, for me at least, a lot of new stuff I've learned. Question for Goran first. What was your sales pitch to your members? Who are they? What's their profile? How did you attract them? And B, is there a model? Is that a model that you replicated from somewhere, or you came up with the model? So kind of the genesis of the idea to come up with. And how many of you are in your organization? And question for Siniša is, what is the current ownership of ITAS, and how does it at all influence the decisions of the board? I mean, what's the relationship, and what is their stance at all? Is there any ownership stance towards the union? And then question for Sam. You told me yesterday about the breakthrough in the TAs unionizing somewhere in US, Chicago, or I didn't remember. Could you tell us a little bit, because I think in this region it's not very well known, the precarity of academic labor in the US, the extent of it, and whether what happened yesterday, do you consider it a breakthrough, and what do you expect from it, and to tell us about a little bit about what happened with this new unionization. Thank you.
Yeah, I only want to have the whole picture. If there is a demand that NGOs should be financed by the state, what's about trade union? What is your opinion? Should be trade union financed by the state?
Okay, thanks for the questions for now. So we have some quite specific questions for Goran and Siniša.
Talking about financing, I always like these questions because I come from the trade unions, and they have quite so-called interesting financial model in Slovenia, I would say so. Because to begin with, the story in Slovenia, we had lots of fights with the company level trade unions because lots of money stayed there and nobody knew where the money went. And this is a whole other story of how to, efficiently and effectively finance the trade union organization work. But to answer your question, I'm quoting here some sentences of one of the big NGOs. The overwhelming majority of our income comes from individuals the world over. These personal and unaffiliated donations allow this organization to maintain full independence from any and all governments, political ideologies, economic interests, or religions. We neither seek nor accept any funds for human rights research from governments or political parties, and we accept support only from businesses that have been carefully vetted. This is the quotation from the Amnesty International. So ideologically, I would say that in lots of senses, I don't agree with them, but their financial model is their organization model. So why wouldn't you do that? Why don't you have organizers? Because Amnesty International have organizers. They go door to door. They have door-to-door model. They have face-to-face model. They have organizers. They have field organizers. They have several hundreds organizers. In Slovenia, they have tens of organizers. They go to door, knock on the door. Hi, we are Amnesty International. And they are really efficient in collecting the money. And they are really efficient in communicating all the issues within the organization. As I was saying, I'm not always nodding to the logic, but their way of financing is quite, efficient in a way, not bringing themselves in the trap of, getting the money from the government, which is bad government, basically. I'll give you an example. Slovenian government. How did the Slovenian government dealt with the refugee crisis? It built fences around Slovenia. So now we have a humanitarian organization, humanitarian NGO, which deals with refugees. And can this NGO, which deals with refugees, go to the, let's say, to get the money from this government? This is really an ethical question. Can you, or are you there to access, do you dare to access to get the dirty money, basically, from the government, which puts the fences around the people which you defend? What do? You have to ask yourself this question. If you're not able to answer yourself this question, if you're only able to collect the money, shut the door. Period. Because this is the fundamental value, the core value of organization. If you can't defend the core value of your organization at any cost, period, you don't exist anymore. You're not legitimate anymore. And that stands for NGOs and for the trade unions. So I think that answered both questions for the NGOs and the trade unions. Talking about the craziness, I was talking about that yesterday. The craziness, I would say, is that we pushed the direct, let's say, yesterday I was talking about bullying the employer. We pushed the direct communication to be, not so blunt to the employers in a way that formal trade unions, they use formal communication through formal institutions. Of course, they have this kind of, institutionalized communication. We do that quite more directly, in a sense that we pick the phone and we yell at the employer directly, and then we see that this employee is not like a god. This employer is a human being, which, starts almost crying when you say, okay, I will go to the labor inspectorate. So this is a bit of craziness, but this is not our privatizing this is not privatizing the method, answering the question to you. This is not something new. This is something that everybody would have and must done facing the bad employer. It's not that you should wait that this bad employer becomes good employer. It won't happen because you have to also, dirten your hands to get in the contact with this employer. So this is, in a sense, the craziness that I'm talking about. You have to be a bit step above this bad employer and use the methods that he or she uses against the workers to this employer. That was I was talking yesterday. About women, I would say that we have more and more women members, but this is also the, let's say, of course not a problem, but they come from the cleaner sector. So this is the problem of certification of the occupations. So the cleaners are, women, the construction workers are men, and, it's quite a certification. So when you see, for example, the wages from the cleaners and their problems, they're really, really a big problem. But, they're really, in fighting mode. They really, organize themselves. So it's really nice to see whoever comes to our doors to, take care of the issues. So I think that this issue as a strategic, not only strategic, but as a, how would I say, so policy, I'm using this word, is really important. Talking about the membership and the model that we use, there is no model. There is simply no model. You just work. I'm not saying that, it's a chaotic issue that you just, go through the daily work with a sense of craziness that, maybe this would be better. I will try that, I will try that. No, we have a sort of experience. And this is our model, because everybody came through the different background. I came from the trade union. I worked at the trade union for 7 years. So I have been, let's say, trade union institutionalized. So I have this background for the formal trade union work. My co-workers, one of them is a migrant worker. He's an electrician. Everybody's saying, oh, are you a lawyer? No, I'm an electrician. He's a counselor now. So he came to Slovenia, he broke his bones and he became a handicapped person, and he helped himself. He went through the institutions, and now he helps other workers. So this is his model. he went through all these institutions. So his experience is his work. And we have another person which came to our doors, and she also had some other sets of skills. And then we also have, for example, persons which help us through daily work, lawyers and advocates. So we have a network. But the daily work which we are doing, and the model of the daily work, comes from our daily experience, which was through other institutions that we work. So I wouldn't dare to say that we are using specific organizing model. I wouldn't dare to say that. Are we successful? The membership are saying that. So the membership is going up. We are a small NGO. There are 3 people which are employed, me and 2 persons. So we are not a big NGO. We are 2 years old, and we have up until now about 600 members. So that this is, in a sense of big trade union, it's like, are you kidding? This is nothing, 600 members. But in a sense of, being an NGO which collects the money or, its membership financed, it's a big thing. So I'm really glad to see that the membership is going up. And also another thing, our members are, not wealthy, really, quite on the contrary. They are poor. And when we see the membership fee, when we collect the money on a monthly basis, we see that about 8 to 9% then don't pay fees, dues, 8 to 9%. So this is really, we collect 92% of the membership fee on monthly. And in lots of cases, people which don't have the money for the monthly fee, they call us. Sorry, I don't have the money this month, I will pay you next month. They call us. This is only because they trust us, we trust them. And I repeat, they don't have means, they have minimum wages, they have minimum incomes. But despite that, they pay. They see the effects of the daily work and they pay. So this is really also a good thing to see our effects of our daily work. I don't know if that's it, okay.
Pa evo, ja bih na ovu malu provokaciju oko financiranja od strane vlade. U Hrvatskoj, odakle dolazim, trenutno su na vlasti desno-konzervativne političke snage. I oni financiraju nevladine udruge, ali ne one koje su lijevo orijentirane, nego one koje su desno orijentirane. I one koje su povezane sa katoličkom crkvom. I kako stvari trenutno idu, još malo pa će žene spaljivati na lomači. Dakle, naše društvo trenutno nazaduje, a država to financira, takvo nazadovanje. Što se tiče organiziranja žena u tvornici cipela u gradu Ivancu, nemamo posebno iskustva, posebno muškarci pa posebno žene. Činjenica je da je to težak posao gdje polovica radnika su žene i nijedna žena ne dočeka na svojem radnom mjestu mirovinu ili penziju zdrava. Dakle, međutim, ako gledamo baš strogo sindikalno, žene su puno aktivnije, borbenije i lojalnije. Kada smo radili prosvjede, žene su bile u akciji od početka do kraja, dok bi nam muškarci otišli u kafe ili negdje drugdje na pivo i nisu bili toliko zainteresirani za rješavanje problema. Dakle, što se toga tiče, žene su puno zahvalnije članice. Međutim, imamo politiku poslodavca da žene međusobno posvađaju i najveći problem je srednji rukovodni kadar koji napravi svađu među ženama radnicama i onda se neki pravi problemi zaboravljaju i ostaje samo onaj sukob na najnižoj razini. Dodatno, žene koje rade u tako slabo plaćenim poslovima vrlo se teško uključuju u sindikalni neki drugi rad, s obzirom da smo još uvijek konzervativna sredina gdje većinu poslova kod kuće rade upravo žene. Bez obzira što živimo u 21. stoljeću. A što se tiče ITAS-a i upravljanja, sad prije nekoliko dana bila je skupština dioničara i radnici su ocijenili rad i glavnog izvršnog direktora nepovoljno, tako da nema povjerenje za nastavak rada. A što se tiče samog odlučivanja, radnici pokušavaju što više ljudi uključiti u proces odlučivanja. Tako da samo u ITAS-u u Hrvatskoj samo imaju takozvanu pogonsku komisiju koja je sastavljena od predstavnika sindikata, radničkog savjeta, srednjeg menadžmenta i prije nego se donosi odluka na najvišoj razini, prvo se raspravi među njima i u pravilu se njihovo mišljenje uvažava.
Možda da spomeneš zadrugu za etično financiranje, s obzirom na to da je...
Hvala Luka. Da. Naš sindikat smatra da treba osnivati zadruge i da je to budućnost. Upravo smo i zbog toga mi kao sindikat jedan od suosnivača zadruge za etično financiranje, čiji je cilj osnivanje etične banke. Trenutno smo napravili svu dokumentaciju i dali smo Hrvatskoj narodnoj banci i čekamo odobrenje za rad. Imamo blizu 2000 članova, što fizičkih osoba, što poduzeća, što lokalne zajednice, odnosno lokalne samouprave, znači gradova i općina. I upravo smo imali slučaj da smo zadnji naš seminar organizirali kod članova zadruge koji imaju ugostiteljsku turističku ponudu, pa smo te novce potrošili kod našeg zadrugara. Ja osobno nisam sklon revolucijama i oduzimanja nečije tuđe imovine. Međutim, mislim da bi radnici se trebali više uključiti u osnivanje zadruga, biti vlasnici na svojem radnom mjestu i upravljati i radnim procesom i koristiti profit koji ostvare. A za to su zadruge idealne.
Thank you, Siniša. Sam?
The TA question, or graduate students, so there's two kind of models in the United States. We have the state-run public university systems, which, whether you're allowed to unionize formally, depends on which state you're in. So there's 51 different models for that. And then the private universities is a newer development because between 2004 and 2015, they weren't allowed to unionize. And we're expecting the Trump labor board to now make it illegal again for private university students to not unionize again. So there's that, and then within that there's kind of three models of that. There's University of California model, which is traditional union collective bargaining, things like that in public universities that allow collective bargaining. There's the model in states like North Carolina that don't have formal union recognition or collective bargaining. They form a union anyway and do what they can on the shop floor, particularly around healthcare and wages and student loans. And then there's the private model, which is, again, traditional unionization. And really the kind of biggest issues that pop up in this is pay for classes. Often the graduate students are working, you know, two other jobs, you know, waitressing or retail or things like that, along with being a student and a teacher at the university. Healthcare is a major, major issue. Most Americans get their healthcare through their employer. But when your employer doesn't actually consider you a worker, but a student, it makes the health care that much more expensive. And so being able to collectively bargain for healthcare is important. And then loan assistance, figuring out how to mitigate, you know, how much you pay for your student loans over time, or mitigate how many student loans you're even able to take out if the school doesn't cover the cost of your education fully. It's a newer area of unionism, and a lot of unions have jumped on it. There's 7 unions representing graduate students in the country, the biggest actually being the auto workers. But there's a lot of different kind of models and organizing around it, and academic precarious labor is, I know, a growing issue elsewhere in the world as well. And then just the idea of a conference on sexism in trade unions is very important, because there's currently a really good push in the US to deal with this issue. There's a conference just a few months ago of women in the construction unions, which is, women only make up about 6% of the construction industry, but there was 1,200 women construction workers talking about issues within their unions and the industry at large. So there's definitely some experiences from the United States that could lend to that.
So if that's all, it's, yeah, you have?
There was no question, but I could still. Okay, so I mean, if there was no concrete question for me, I just want to finish with something general. I mean, what we haven't mentioned the whole conference is that, like, 100 years ago now, we have had the Russian Revolution. 100 years ago, we saw a process started by a women demonstration in February, leading to the overthrow of the Tsarist regime and a democratic revolution, when workers started to occupy so many workplaces all over the countries, and the peasants start to occupy the land. And then in October, the revolution took place. A government was created based on workers' councils, starting with new measures like first declaration, end of war, second declaration, the workers' control of the economy, third declaration, land to the peasants, voting rights to the women's, equality for homosexuals in Russia, and so on. I mean, so many beautiful things were happening like 100 years ago. And they were happening in the middle of a night of the workers' movement. I mean, we must not forget this. It was the deepest night of the workers' movement when in 1914 the First World War started. The Second International broke up. The workers started to kill each other all over Europe. Millions of workers killing each other. So much depression. Rosa Luxemburg, for example, you know, and the day when the First World War started, and the social democracy was supporting the imperialist war of the German government. She was sitting in her flat with like 10 comrades around her, crying, thinking about suicide and killing herself because there's no more hope. She was thinking there's no future, no perspective, yeah? And then there was the Russian Revolution. And then there was so much hope all over the world. I mean, within a year in Germany, the workers, that went to the war 4 years before saying we have to kill the French guys and the Serbians, especially the Serbians and so on, make the revolution, ending the war, overthrowing the Kaiser, yeah, giving the woman the right to vote, and so on, yeah. I mean, in Hungary, there was the Soviet Republic. In Italy, there were like workers' councils all over the place. In the whole world, there was so much hope coming out of this event. I'm mentioning this because I think we must not forget what a huge impact it would have if we would manage today, at least in one single country in Europe, to break through the walls, the fronts of neoliberalism, and to create something different. Imagine that just in one country in Europe, we would have a left-wing government based on trade unions, based on active workers' movement, doing things like free healthcare for everyone, free public transport, free education, like less working hours, equal pay for men and women, all the rights to refugees and so on. Just imagine we would break through at one point through the front of neoliberalism and create something different. How much hope and energy this would give to all those movements around Europe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long it will take and how far it is. I'm just saying that it can happen in a situation of weakness, as it did the Russian Revolution. There can be so much hope and so much new perspectives. So I think this is what we should struggle for, hoping that when we manage it in one country, it will have consequences all over the place. The Russian Revolution demonstrated to us that things like this can happen in the periphery. I mean, Russia was the most reactionary place, backwarded place, yeah? It can happen in the periphery. It can happen even like in, I don't know, the Balkan, Southeastern Europe. It can happen in the periphery. And the last thing I want to say is, I mean, it requires strong left organizations, as there was in Russia. And I think this is the thing we should take for today. And what we have to do is to build strong left parties, strong left currents within the trade union movement, and militant social movements connected with the trade unions. Yeah, thank you, comrades.
Fertig, as my grandma would say. I think that Florian concluded this panel. Although the experience teaches us that after the applause he also can say some clever and inspiring stuff. But I would call for the second panel on organizing and campaigning in the public sector to take the presiding table. So we'll continue with in 5 minutes.